Hi, this is Sage Kimball. I'm the Mad Stamper here, and I am going to show you how to do the floating Reinker watercolor technique that I used on this rose. So the supplies and materials that you need are a piece of shimmery white cardstock and a stamp with outlines instead of being a solid stamp. So I'm going to use this lovely rose design from the Fifth Avenue floral set, and this is one of my favorites for this technique. It's got two other really lovely images that work very well with this floating Reinker technique. A Versamark pad, 2 or 3 Reinkers, the colors of your choice, and an aqua painter. And you'll also need some white embossing powder. So to start, I'm going to use the embossing buddy on my piece of shimmery white cardstock. Stamp my image with Versamark ink, Cover it with white embossing powder. And then melt that with the heat tool. So I just use a piece of tweezer, a grasping tweezer to hold it, and melt with my heat tool. So the next thing I do is I just take a plastic kitchen container and put my stamped image in that, and I spritz it with water and get it nice and wet. And that's why you use the shimmer paper instead of the Whisper White. Now, then I take and I put a drop of each of the Reinkers that I'm going to use in my palette. I have these little palettes like this, but you could use a yogurt container top or anything like that. So I'm going to use Pretty in Pink, Regal Rose, and Rich Razzleberry. A yummy combination. I love these. Then I'm going to just pick up a little color of the darkest color with my aqua painter, and you'll see how when I touch it to the water on the cardstock, it just starts spreading like that. So this is a very imprecise technique that gets some really lovely results. And you don't have to stay in the lines because you're going to cut the image out when we're finished. So I just lay down one of my colors, and if I find that the water is drying out, I'll just spritz it a little more, because I want to keep the ink floating. Okay, then I'm going to add my next color after I just wiped off the brush a little. Okay, so I add my Rich Regal, wipe off the brush again, and then finish up with the Pretty in Pink right in the center. And you see how the colors just kind of float and blend together there. You're not painting a petal at a time. You're letting the embossing guide where your ink goes. And then when it's at this point, I'm going to lean it up against the side of the container here, and you can see how the the really wet areas are gathering drops down towards the bottom of where it's of how it's leaning, using gravity to give some more interest to your project. So now you have to just wait and let it dry. If you want, you can use the heat tool to speed drying, but I usually wait until it's mostly dry so that I don't disturb these areas where we have drops forming. And if you think you've got too much, the drops are too big, you can just take and blot up a little bit of that color with a napkin or a paper towel. And that will mean you don't get quite such a dark area at the bottom of the petals. So you'll just have to experiment. It's a great technique for kind of surrendering. You're not in control of your coloring like you might be used to in other techniques. And here it is, ready to go on my card, like so. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and be sure to check back at www.stampingmadly.com for more inspiration and instructions from Stamping Madly. See you there.